Hi, Dr. Eddie. It's so great to see you.
And it's good to see you too, Tammy. So, hey everyone, welcome. Glad to have you back for another edition of Getting to the Other Side. What we're going to be talking about today is what is what I believe is the cornerstone for helping her heal. There's been, there've been books that have been written about it. There are so many webinars. There are, courses that Seeking Integrity runs, and there's just a lot of resources out there to for men to help them to navigate through the pathways of helping their spouse or partner to heal from the betrayals that they've suffered. And with all of the things that are out there, men still, as I always put it, this is like the hill they die on sometimes. They sometimes learn how to recover from their addiction easier than they do learning how to help their spouse to heal. And I think part of the problem, well, I know part of the problem, I actually wrote a book about it, Why Men Struggle to Love. And it's the idea that they don't have the tools, they don't have that emotional bandwidth to be able to fully connect and engage. And so therefore they're lacking a lot of things, especially something like empathy, which is very important in this case. So for me, I've come up with what I believe is a very simple, simplistic approach to how men should deal with this situation. And what I do and what I tell my men is this: follow the write it. And guys, if you're listening, write this down. Get a pencil, get a paper. I'll stall for a moment to get you so that you can get that going. But this, what I'm going to share with you right now, again, it is right to the heart of what we need to do. And if you take this approach, I promise that your partner will start to feel, ooh, I am a priority. What I need, what I desire, you are providing for me. And what is this? Again, simple. How will this action or inaction impact my spouse, partner, whatever you want to put there? So for me, Terry, how will this action or inaction impact Terry? And to use that always, with every single decision you make. Tammy, I counseling men, I give them many different tools to use. And I also, talk to them and I tell them, I go, guys, I don't always get it right. These tools I'm giving you right now, like for example, being mindful, I'm not always mindful. This one, how will this action or inaction impact Terry? I've almost mastered this one. I'm for 20 something years, almost 27 years. This is one that it is so close to my heart. And with that, again, it's almost like everything before I start to take an action on it, it's like, I wonder what she'll think. Be a good thing, bad thing. And in many cases, I get, oh, she'll be fine. Very rare am I wrong with that now. At the beginning, there were a few times I was wrong about that when I was getting to know her and such. But again, what it does, it takes us away from the sense of being self-absorbed. Like, oh, you know what? Yes, I think I'm going to stop there on the way home because I have the desire. And then become, wait a second, didn't I promise that I wasn't going to, I was always going to let her know that? But no, I just need to go there because I desire to get something there without thinking. So again, this becomes a way of life for us. And that's what it is. For me, it's a way of life. How will this action or inaction impact Terry? And for you to be able to use that every day along the way, it is going to make, one is going to speak volumes because what you're doing is, again, you're communicating to them directly or indirectly. So you don't have to go and talk about it, but you are communicating the fact, oh, he is being thoughtful. Oh, he is being courteous. Oh, he is being, mindful. The groundwork. We need that. If you don't have that as your groundwork in helping her to heal, there will be no healing for this. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up because I think that is a critical point. Now, for guys, you have to understand, it's like, okay, so you've written this down, but now what it has to do, it has to become ingrained in your brain. I mean, this is something you got to, maybe you take it, you carry it around, you pull it out, maybe you put it on a screensaver on your phone, whatever you do, that you just remember it, that it becomes part of your nature, that it is something that you abide by and agree to moving forward. But without it, again, we're going to be kind of lost, because we're going to keep slipping back into what is it that I want, what is it that I desire. And that cannot be the case with this. So now let me shift gears a little bit and share, not to cause alarm to anyone, but just to, let you know what goes on and how this disorder, as I say, is not something we cure. Former client of mine who I haven't worked with in almost 5 years, doing really well. Well, he had a relapse and called me yesterday. It didn't involve pornography and it didn't involve other people. What it involved was things like YouTube videos, Facebook videos, and he is very distraught by all of it. He shared it with his wife. And I'm, pretty distraught too, because this guy's done such amazing work. So what happened here? What happened? Well, what happened is the lack of self-care. I got this. I'm good. No problem. I mean, 5 years. Hey, what could go wrong? And I don't think I need my group anymore. No group. I don't think I need to really talk to a mentor or sponsor anymore. No connections. Stress at work becomes incredible. Incredible job. The job that was like, oh, this is an amazing job. I love it. It's great. It's so stress-free. All of a sudden, things turn. Happens, right? And now, all of a sudden, the stress level is out of control. So what did he do? He started to find ways to check out. Oh, I'm going to go play Candy Crush on my phone in the middle of the workday. Right? What's he doing? Getting a shot of dopamine to his head, to his brain. With that, now all of a sudden he once again, which that dopamine had been somewhat dormant in the sense that he doesn't have to rely on it in an addictive way any longer. He's learned how to manage it. It flares up when he is properly excited or feeling some sort of pleasure. And he's just doing very well with it. Now what he's doing, he's starting to abuse it, because it's like, I need this to distract myself from the anxiety that's going on. So it starts off with, little games on his phone in the middle of work when he should be working. He's not. He needs to take breaks. In fact, actually doing his meetings and he's playing with his phone over here with that. Why? Because he's still looking for that excitement. Well, over a period of time, that's not enough. I think I need more. He heads over to Facebook and like they have those little picture things there, and I can't really describe them to you because I don't know. I don't go through them. I still don't know what's on YouTube. People tell me bikini shots and things like that, but I really don't know. I haven't gone through, and I don't plan on it. But anyway, he just continues to escalate and escalate and escalate until finally you get into the point that he's watching, these pretty provocative types of images, and he's like, I'm out of control again. And he confessed to his wife, which was good, and called me, which was good, about 2 months late, but, he still did. And again, I bring it up not to put fear into anyone. I bring it up in order for you to understand the fact that we must be diligent in what we do in recovery. And we have to be aware there is temptations all around us. More importantly, what's really around us is there is a lot of anxiety around us. And anxiety, an increase of anxiety will lead to an increase in compulsiveness. And an increase in compulsiveness is going to add to an increased risk of bad decision making. We need to proactively be taking care of that anxiety. He did not do that. He did not take care of it. It got out of control. He had to figure a way how to deal with it. He made a bad decision. And now his wife is, pretty devastated by it because she's thinking, wow, after 5 years, we were in such a good place. You won a lot of trust back. And now she feels like, wow, we're almost back to where we were before. So again, that story is just starting to unfold here, and I'll be walking through that. But I bring it up again because I don't want your stories to unfold. I don't want your stories to take, have setbacks. So please be diligent, be aware. Don't, say, oh, you know what, I'm good. It'll never happen. Again, 27 years, I never say it's never going to happen. Do I think my risk of it happening is low? Yes, I think it's extremely low, which is good. And I can have that confidence. I like being able to have that confidence, but I'm not naive enough to think that, what, if I allow circumstances to run amok and the stars misalign for whatever reason, you know what, I'm just as vulnerable as anybody else that's out there. So again, let's just be strong, be smart, be safe. And, if we talk about prep, be prepared for things. So Tammy, that's what I got for you today.
Good stuff. I wrote down the relapse is, it's complacency. And I was like, I've been doing this a long time too. And I don't ever pretend like I got this, and I never say that I'm recovered. I'm in recovery and I do what I need to do. But I thought, your client probably quit paying attention to, his middle circle. He probably had slipped into that a long time ago and wasn't going, oh, how do I get back to my outer circle? What healthy things, like calling Dr. Eddie, doing, connecting with support, like you mentioned strong. I think strong is getting the support. Like we, when we are doing this together, we are strong. Me doing it by myself is not strong. It's, in my opinion, me doing it by myself is foolish, because I'm an addict. I'm always going to be an addict. I love what you were talking about with, I was thinking too, addicts are the only ones that go, oh, this is really working for me, so I'm going to stop doing that. Like, really the insanity of that. But just think about, like, this worked for me for almost 5 years. And guess what? I'm going to quit doing that because it worked so well. And I had a good relationship and I'd build up trust and my job was going well and I was less stressful. So I'm done with that.
What's happening there? The stress is starting to slowly work its way to a point that the addictive brain is starting to get activated. And therefore, I need to be able to justify, oh, yeah, just let it go. It's not a big deal. And what I've done is I've let go the safeguard that are needed. And when that happens, all bets are off.
But life is full of stress, yeah. So hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or stressed, I use HALTs. And if I'm any one of those, guess what? I can do things that are in my outer circle that will help me, rather than going, oh, I'm stressed. I need to Candy Crush or do whatever. Like, yeah. I mean, I can go down the rabbit hole, and I could choose to do that. I, like you, choose, but it's intentional. I was thinking when you were, like you talked about, it takes practice to be intentional about, how are my actions going to, like, really, how is this going to play out? If I act or don't act, like, how is this going to play out in my relationship? And, your primary relationship, but it's true with work relationships. It's any relationship. Yes. Like, if we're congruent, we are thinking about how do my actions affect me and others around me. And that's being intentional.
As people who have an addictive brain, we have to be even more so doing that. Yes. More so, we have to be, how are these actions going to impact anyone? Because again, there are times we may think, oh, yeah, that's harmless. It's not harmless. It's not harmless because, again, it depends on is that compulsiveness, has that become activated? And again, that becomes activated because our stress level. I mean, I've been up since 4:30 this morning. Why? Not because I wanted to get up and exercise, but because I had so much weighing on my mind. If my wife came in, around 8:15 this morning, morning in the office, she goes, what's going on? I go, just too much to do. But yet I know that, I understand it. It's not going to get me stressed out. All I do is I take some extra time to do what I have to do, and then going to find time just to go and veg out and just relax. But we don't. People who have addiction, they don't usually do that. And what they'll do is they'll just go to get whatever they need to do to get finished. And then what are they going to find? Oh, there's more, and there's more, and there's more. And that's when all of a sudden something starts to click and it says, I need something else. And not what I was doing before. Because I don't need that anymore.
Yeah, because I'm all better now. Yeah, right. Yeah. So, but, I think, you talked about being self-absorbed, self-focused, and I think defensive, it's like, the defensive of like, well, I deserve to do this, and you don't understand, and, like all of that, which doesn't play out well, either in relationships, but also for our recovery. I really do believe that we, like in our addiction, our world is so small. We are so focused on me. And yes. Yeah. And in recovery, like you talked before we got started about, you're 3 days away and like all of these great things. In addiction, we don't care about any of those things. We just care about, Candy Crush and YouTube and, like whatever, and our world is really small. But so we miss out, we are causing ourselves the greatest loss. We hurt our relationships too, but we cause ourselves the greatest loss because we're missing out on what the real world has.
That's right. That's right. As I said, I think I've talked about this with the group too, is that, I try to picture our world as like this, with this little box, and everything else is out here. But for us, this is what we stay focused on, for the most part. And that's why I said, even if, when you met somebody who you wind up marrying, what you did was you opened the door, your window a little bit more to let her in and her friends and maybe family and this. And then the first time something happens that puts a fear in that inner child, that window closes again. Hey, and guess what? She's over here.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's over here. But it's like, hey, it's okay. We can do really well with you over there. What a big deal. We're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Good. You're not good at all.
Yeah. you're behind the cement block wall, but it's all fine. So
Right. I'll find you somehow. I'll knock on
yeah,
it. Okay.
yeah. But leave me alone because I'm busy with doing my addiction. So yeah. Okay, so we've got some questions. What is the most common? This is oh man, what is the most common problem you see with men create, face, fail to address with their mate? And you can use me as an example. So you know this person, but like I think
Right.
make
Yeah.
sure you're using globally. So
Well, I think the biggest problem that, most men have when it comes to, again, helping their spouse is fear. Fear. It's the idea I'm going to get in trouble. And so therefore, again, in fact, I had a session earlier this morning where, we're talking about the idea of curiosity. We need to be more curious. And, you talk about the fact that really frightened me. And it's like, why? He goes, going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to ask the wrong question. Um, yes, maybe you do. But if you don't take the opportunities to try to do that, you'll never know. And in the meantime, if you don't take those steps, what will happen is you'll have a very frustrated partner who's been asking for curiosity, been asking for input for things. So therefore, but fear without a doubt, the number one issue I see. And that's where it goes back to something you said before, Tammy, defensiveness. That's where defensiveness will come into, in that aspect, because, here it is, spouse is trying to get clarification, trying to understand something, and I want to shut it down. Defensiveness is trying to shut it all down. And so therefore we have to, again, build a man's confidence. And as we've talked about before in the past, well, how do you build confidence in this time frame, this season? Well, you know what? I can build confidence in the fact of I'm working on my recovery. I can build confidence in the fact that I am making attempts to engage and to walk into the fire with my spouse. Okay. I am making attempts in trying to transform my heart so I can quiet down many of my blind spots. If you're doing all of that work, I can have confidence in the fact that I'm reaching out to others in community. If you have all of those things that are taking place, even though the things in the relationship, they may not be solid at the moment, you can still have confidence that, you know what, I'm on the right path. I'm on the right path, and I don't know, I want to use the word intention because we don't care about intention. And my goal is to do the right thing. To do the right thing, always, to go back to here again. How will this action or inaction impact Terry? What's the point of this? To do the right thing. Okay, it's not to be, so therefore, everything I do in life has to be for her liking and her liking only. No, that's not it. Okay, it's even that, okay, well, if I do this, she may not like it. So you know what? Before I do it, I'm just going to go tell her I'm going to do it. Doesn't mean I can't do it. It just means I need to let her know so this way we can talk about it. And who knows, she may even come up with a better, solution or a better idea, suggestion of why I shouldn't do it, which usually is what happens anyway. But that's, what goes on. So yeah, again, I'll go back to, I think, fear.
well, and lying, comes out of fear, and I hear all the time from betrayed partners. Yeah, but
Everything comes out of
right.
fear.
But I hear partners going like, I can almost tolerate the behaviors, but it's the lying about everything. But exactly like you're saying, it comes from fear. So I was thinking too with I use the false evidence appears real. So we make up this whole story about like, oh, she's going to be mad at me, or oh, he, whatever, or they're not going to let me do this. Well, first of all, it's not a parental, like if you're in a real partnership, it isn't, I'm going to go ask mommy. It's like, and you have to earn your spot back. But you talked about, I can control my actions, and I use the serenity prayer as a mantra, and I remind myself that the only thing I can control are my actions and reactions. I got no control over you. I got no control over anything else, anybody else, but that is within my control. So how I show up, for myself and others is how I can do life differently in recovery. Okay, next question. There are many things done in everyday life. We can do stuff almost automatically. Seems like I need to focus on the impact on how what I will do will affect her sense of safety. Those things I normally do are safe. If there is anything not routine, I need to think about what will it do to make her feel unsafe. I can always ask if I don't know. The system I use on my computer for accountability, which I don't have the password for, was left up. I looked at it and there were yellow flags. So I looked at it. The yellows were just news emails that had words that would flag the system. The fact that I was on the website for my accountability came up on my web history, and my wife saw it, and it made her feel really unsafe.
Well, see, once again, and you're right, there are things that we do that are more routine. Wife understands those are routines. Probably don't need to go and check because that's just, part of life. But when things like this happen, system, you come up and here's your accountability system on the computer, again, at that point, I'm probably saying, ooh, you know what, let me go find her to say, hey, why is XYZ accountability partner, software up, versus you trying to feel, do I shut it down? No, just go find her to say, what do you think this is? So again, that's going to get you into how will this action or inaction, but it looks like you are, the thing that you're talking about here, that you are already starting to move down that pathway of trying to make sure that before you take any action, you want to make sure that she's going to feel safe, which is smart.
Yeah. And I love that you're thinking, oh, I need to be intentional. If it's not part of the routine, I need to ask, or I need to discuss it, whatever. Great. That's moving stuff to the executive part of the brain where you're actually thinking about things and thinking about others. That's, so that is great. So, okay. So the next question, what do you do if there are no groups or support people available in your area? And he adds, internet and Facebook groups are not an option, as internet is part of the problem. And I'm going to go, well, you're on this group and we have a bunch of drop-in groups that are live, hosted by a safe person. So you do it via Zoom. They are all men or all women if it's a female group, but they are set up to be a safe place. So there's a ton of resources on the Seeking Integrity site. But
some people say that the virtual groups are not the same as live in person, because they said it doesn't really allow for that, camaraderie. I disagree. I mean, yes, I do think live at times can be, a little bit more, give more opportunity for that. But let me tell you, even if there's a lot of people, again, you're emotionally undeveloped, I don't care if it's live or virtual, you're going to have a problem. Some people virtually actually do better than they would in a live meeting. And I know the groups I've been running, those have continued after we are done, where they're getting together one day a week for an hour for like a lunch virtually and just talking about everything that's been going on in their world and being there to support one another. So yes, there are opportunities. And even if your internet becomes part of the problem, you may just that day have an issue, but I wouldn't allow that from keeping you from trying to do something on a virtual basis.
So there are filters, as the previous person said, there are filters you can have. And yes, the internet can be a problem. Every one of the guys that comes to our residential treatment program, we have a technology blackout, and then they use it within a monitored time frame, limited. But guess what? We have alumni groups that meet every week online, and the guys come back online. So it isn't about avoiding the internet. It's like, how do you use the internet for the good? And a meeting online is better than no meeting at all. Trying to do this stuff on your own is a recipe for disaster.
Exactly.
Okay. Next question. I've done formal disclosure. Since then, I've gotten into a habit of asking my wife permission to do anything, everything. She asked me to stop giving her that burden. I'm a little confused, and I haven't asked her to explain. Can you give insight on this?
Yeah, again, like Tammy said before, your wife should not now be mom. Mom, can I go here? Mom, can I do this? Mom, that's not what this is about. And even the whole idea here of how will this action or inaction impact her, that's not saying, I need to go after. You just need to sit and think it through. And if you get the answer of, I don't know, or two, I don't think she can be happy, then I mean, you know what? I'm refraining from doing that. No, I don't think anybody wants to have the burden of having their partner constantly be, coming and saying, can I do this? Can I do that? Can I share? It's like, you're right. She said it's a burden. That's what it is. It is a burden. I think, again, you use what I just told you and try to discern on your own, how do you think this will impact her? If you feel like, she's going to be good with it, then go and just do it. If you feel like she may struggle with it, then I bring it to her and say, hey, you know what? Again, not asking for permission, but to say, I just want to let you know, I'm going to go here or do this and see what she says versus actually asking for permission.
I was thinking, well, that's called communication. And I was
Yeah.
talking to a betrayed partner the other day, and like she was talking about, when her addict husband, does a trip, he just, tells her he's doing a trip, and he plans it and he goes. When she's going to do a trip, she talks about, with girlfriends, she talks about, I'm planning to do this, da 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 da. So it's not that she's asking permission, but it's also giving, like, are these, if there was something with dates that wasn't going to work or whatever, there would be an opportunity for communication about that. There's also the opportunity of, like, great, go enjoy the time with your girlfriends or whatever, but his was just all me. And hers was like looking for that dialogue and communication between the two. So to me, this is an opportunity to have and it could even be, here's the communication could be, if it's something outside of the norm, I'm going to tell you about it. I'm not trying to burden you, and we'll find better boundaries about what you need to know, and guess what? You're going to misstep. You're going to go, oh, she doesn't need to know about that. And she did want to know about that. So, but that's how you find the boundaries, is like, right. You talk about it. So, but
I do have something. I'm wondering, Dom, why you said you haven't asked her to explain yet. What are you waiting for? Why haven't you? I would have asked her immediately when she said, you need to stop. There's too much of a burden. Again, curiosity. Well, tell me why it seemed to be a burden to you. In what way is that? And then you would have probably gotten the same answer I just gave you. So I would still go back and talk to her. Tell her you had this little conversation and see if she's in agreement with that.
Yeah, and ask her for her input on what is helpful, what would be useful, right. Not, so she's not being shut out either. Okay, right. Next question. He said fear. That's what kept him from asking. But I'll ask her. He said fear, but I'll ask her. So
good. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
good for you.
Not before.
Yeah. Okay, I'm struggling with vulnerability, intimacy, communication, ignoring, being defensive, and being emotionally abusive. I am not drinking or drugging or watching porn. I just feel like I'm a stick in the mud and not moving or growing, and my wife is suffering. What direction or suggestions or support should I be looking for? Oh, goodness.
Okay, so you're not drinking, you're not drugging, you're not watching porn. So again, what you're saying to me right now is sobriety is there. However, as you say, you're stuck. Well, I guess my question is to you, what are you doing from a recovery standpoint? Just again, just because you're sober doesn't mean you are fully recovered. There is the idea again, if you're struggling with vulnerability, intimacy, communication, being defensive, and being emotionally abusive, then that means you are emotionally undeveloped. We have a course that's actually starting tomorrow, right? Start
I think
tomorrow.
so. Yes.
Yeah, we're doing our Why Men Struggle to Love course. It's a 12-week, it's divided into 2 parts, 6 weeks and 6 weeks. We do it here through Seeking Integrity. And that would be a wonderful place for you to start to get unstuck. You'd be surrounded by, I think, 15 other men that we have who will be sharing how they're doing, the things that we are teaching and how they're learning how to be empathetic, how to be outwardly focused, how to not hide and lie any longer. There's the 14 blind spots. So again, for you, that's wonderful. I'm glad that you're not drinking, drugging, or watching porn. Congratulations, Doug. But that's only part of recovery. You now need to dive into the other end of the pool, which is actually a lot deeper. All right, because this is what's going to teach you how to transform your heart. How do I do that? And so that's what I would suggest. I think what Tammy, did you just put something up there for me?
I put in the chat, and it refers to the Seeking Integrity site. So the work group that you mentioned is there. We have a betrayed partner group. We have, which is great for, partners. We have sex addiction 101 for foundational components. So yeah, to me, I like, again, great. I hear abstinence, not even really sobriety, because I always say abstinence is just not doing the problematic behaviors. Sobriety is you're working on things, you're trying to figure things out. You're here, so that's great. But it really, recovery, that takes months of changing. Like Eddie was talking about, being intentional. You're thinking about things differently. You can't do that early in the process because you're just working on these things. But I say all the time to people that the acting out, whatever form it takes, is problematic, but it's a symptom. So stopping the problematic behavior is the very beginning of the process, addressing the underlying issues. So the inner child, the attachment, all of those things. And it's a process, and just stopping we use the term dry drunk, so people that don't drink, but they don't change, are just dry drunk, so they're just as nasty, pardon me, but they're just as nasty and abusive and everything else as they are when they're drinking. Sometimes even worse, because they're not changing, they're not using their maladaptive coping mechanisms like porn and drinking and all that. So they can actually be kind of worse, to deal with. People say you were nicer when you were drinking.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, we need that, Dom. You have to do something for us. I want you to go back and put something up. What is the fear about? Why are you afraid to go and talk to her? Okay. Like to see what that is.
Okay. So next question. My partner and I are working the betrayal trauma model in just a few weeks beyond disclosure. She needs safety, and I'm leaning to openness and ownership to create safety. But she asked many times how she can know the behaviors will stop. I'm 14 years in recovery with intermittent sobriety, and now seeing blind spots that I've been missing all along, with much better recovery. How can I provide safety while acknowledging that I share her fear that I really have no guarantee? Great question.
Great question. And again, what we're talking about here is the whole idea of consistency. So again, 14 years of recovery, but yet sobriety has been somewhat spotty in between. the more consistency she sees, the more likely she is to feel safer. I'm not sure any woman who's been through any of this, or men who've been through this, because their wives are struggling, are ever feeling 100% safe. I mean, their guard may let down a great deal, but I'm still sure there's always going to be that bit of uncertainty. For you here now, and especially I love the idea what you're doing here, you're understanding what the blind spots are, and you're starting to do your work there, because the more you do that, then you start to see the changes in the other areas of your life. And she's seeing other attributes of you grow, which is really important. So she's seeing things she's never seen before. I wound up discharging a client yesterday, and I had a session with him and his wife. And she was like, I don't know what to say to you. She goes, he is not the same guy. He is so different since he started working with you. And he goes, I'm just blown away that I go back over that blind spot chart and I go across them, and in all areas. He worked really hard. He worked very, very hard at it. But it paid dividends. And that's why, and I'm just saying, I remember my initial meeting with those two. And she was like, and they were separated. And she was like, she goes, I don't think this isn't going to work. She goes, this is going to be you're it. You're the last chance, the last hope. But she goes, I'm not doing this anymore. I've been doing it for way too many years. I've been getting all these false promises. Nothing ever happens. And, unfortunately, it all worked. It clicked for him, because as he said, my gosh, once I understood my inner child, and then I understood, oh, you know what? I'm not emotionally developed. I'm emotionally immature. And he saw all of that, and that's what he dove into, and that's what he worked on. That's what he fixed. And I'm telling you, I've seen him grow myself. I watched these men grow, and I can tell, after just about a month, 6 weeks, which ones are going to get it, which ones are going to take a little bit longer, and also those guys who just aren't going to get it. So anyway, that's where I would stay with that, with the blind spot, but try to be consistent, especially with the sobriety aspect of it, and also try to figure out what's going on there with the sobriety. Why is it kind of hit or miss? Go back to the inner child, do some of the inner child work. Go back to the Going Deeper course that we have, or pick up the Going Deeper book if you haven't read it yet, and try to understand what's happening that your child is getting involved back into the situation and then taking over. So
I was thinking back to the first question, or the example you were using. It wasn't even a question, but it was the 5 years of sobriety, but the person wasn't doing what they needed to do on a daily basis. And so, I've been doing this a long time, and I still won't promise anybody that, I'm never going to act out, but I do what I need to do today. And so that's kind of my insurance policy for today, that I won't today. And I think if you really are showing your wife, it's not about your words. I say all the time, addicts can lie. So words are meaningless. It's your actions. And if you're here, that's great. If you are doing what you need to do to move from sobriety to recovery, that's a completely different, it's so different. You are living recovery, not just, checking off boxes. It's very different. I live my 12 steps. I live my recovery program, because that's how I learned to do life differently than when I was in active addiction. So the hope is that, you're just a few weeks past your disclosure process. And as long as you are consistently doing what you need to do, she'll see that you are different than the 14 years of intermittent slips. But You can't promise her any, you can't make her feel safe other than your actions over time. So the next question, somebody asked about the going deeper. I put the link in it. The next offering is September 6th.
We're in the middle of one now, and then I was just looking through my records here. Yeah, we're going to do another one in September, and I think we have one more before the end of the year, right?
Yes.
You're working me. You just work me so hard, damn it.
I know. That's why you got to get up at 4:30 in the morning. So sorry, not okay. All right, the next question. Can you explain and give an example of transparency? I was telling my SA husband that I felt confused about holding hands with him. The next day after we were talking about it again, he said that he really wanted to say was to hold hands. It felt like was to hold hands if I felt like holding hands. He said he felt it was manipulative because he really wants me to hold his hand. I told him that I wish he would be transparent and tell me how he felt about it. His transparency has always been a problem, which is typical. I think the issue of not telling me how he is actually feeling is what I was upset with, even though the topic was minuscule. Is that asking too much?
No, it's not asking too much. The question becomes again, why is he reluctant to share? Why doesn't he want to say, yes, you know what, I wanted to hold your hand, or I didn't want to hold your hand? What is keeping him from, and again, that's just one example, what's keeping him from being transparent about everything and anything? And my guess is he's doing a lot of mind reading. That's what I assume is happening. And he's probably looking at your body language, your face, and I'm not blaming you at all. This is him. And he's reading it and he's making judgments. And he's probably getting them wrong. And he's thinking, you know what, don't even try. Don't even bother. And again, as Tammy pointed out before, we miss out on so much when we do this. And again, what's at the heart of this? Fear. Again, it's fear. Whether I'm going to be rejected because you don't want to hold my hand, or, I'm going to be in trouble with something. And again, this is because men need to learn to grow up. It's the bottom line. We have to learn to grow up because we are still children at heart. And I don't mean that in a very playful kind of way. We're just children. Actually, we're children, period. And it's destroying, it destroys our relationship. And even if our relationships stay together, they're minimized. They're not, we don't live them to the fullest because we won't take chances. We won't take the risks. Interesting. We won't take a risk when it comes to making a connection from an intimacy. You're going to finish this statement, aren't you, Tammy? You know where I'm going, right? Mm-hmm. We won't take a risk there. But oh my gosh, how many risks do we take when it comes to our addiction? I mean, foolish, stupid, silly mistakes that we wind up making because we take those risks. Here, where we could actually gain something, which in many cases, some of us has never felt before. Because I told you guys before, emotional intimacy is far, far stronger than physical intimacy. I know some of you like, I don't get it. It is. And you're missing out on it. But once you sit there and you start to be vulnerable and somebody feeds you, okay, they feed you because you're being vulnerable, it's going to feel like something you've never felt before. You have to take it. So that's what I would go back to him and talk to him and say, so talk to me about, again, what do you believe is the issue that leads you not to be transparent? And if he can't figure it out, then I'd be having him talk to his counselor. If he doesn't have one, I'd go back and find one again because it's something that's important. It's something that's needed. This becomes, again, more than sobriety, so much more than sobriety. Because again, you could stop it being sober and that's it. But guess what? There's still nothing there. Nothing.
Well, even if you're holding hands, you're still behind the cement block wall because he's keeping you distanced because you don't know what's really going on. I was thinking, it's okay for us to say, I'm afraid to tell you this. I'm afraid this will feel manipulative, but I really want to hold your hand. It's okay to voice the fear. Like if we just say, I'm afraid to say this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Guess what? It's usually not as scary as it actually, as we blow it up in our minds, but we're also saying, we're prefacing, and that's not to be manipulative, like, oh, you have to, like, that you have to make it all okay. It's just voicing transparently, I'm afraid. Okay, so Dom did come back and answer your question. She gets angry and has hit me in the past. We have had therapy on that, but it's easier said to stop being afraid than to actually do it. I also hate seeing her hurt. I'm also trying to do what's right for my adult children who are 19 and 23. I fight resentment about our past.
Again, I hope you guys are still in to talk about some of these things. If you've had therapy about her physical violence, hopefully that has stopped. The fact that you hate to see her hurt, well, guess what? You're not engaging there. You are hurting. You are hurting her. So therefore, again, I think go back to what Tammy said regarding this. It's sitting and having that conversation with her, and talking to her about, hey, I want to, to be sharing some of this stuff, but I just want to know what it is that you want me to share. What do you want to know about, what I want to do, what I don't want to do? When should I not come and talk to you about, permission for things? Have that conversation. And yes, you're right. It's a lot easier said than done when it comes to your fear. Well, you have to, and I'm not telling you not to be afraid. That's not the answer. Okay, you hold on to the fear and you move forward despite the fear because it's the right thing to do. The right thing to do. So good luck with that. I hope that you get a chance to put that to practice.
Well, and I was thinking, if you're fighting the resentment of your past, you're missing out on your present. So, so I would invite you, the 4th and 5th step in the 12 steps do a really good job of, helping us with our resentments. That's how we, the steps 4 through 9, we clean up, we do our house cleaning, and that, frees us up. So I would really invite you to lean into the resources that are available.
And if you have a counselor, your counselor would be more than happy to walk you through. I've done that. I can't tell you how many times walk through resentment that my client have had. And we just, again, soften them. So
yeah, and resentments are the number one reason we relapse, because we, like you were talking about with the 5 year of sobriety, I'm sure there were resentments that my job is so stressful and nobody understands me, and whatever else that we make up in our head that gives us permission to go act out. So, so the next question is, does Seeking Integrity do 12-step programs online? So 12 steps are 12 steps. We have a number of links to the various 12 steps, and there are bunches of them. And there's PA, PAA, SPAA, SA, SA. I won't go through all of those. So they are linked to the resource tab on our site. But we do drop-in groups, which are different. I'm subbing in on the Betrayed Partner drop-in group today, which means they are all moderated. So there's a safe space. They are done via Zoom. They are not recorded. There are separate ones for addicts. There are separate ones for partners. So those are a safe space to go and connect, get peer support, etc. And then we've got the webinars like this one, and then Dr. David's tonight, which I'm subbing in for Dr. David tonight. So I'm going to be online a lot. Don't not come, because I'm going to be there. Please, Scott's there too. So, but very different. But you will find all those resources. And then, as Dr. Eddie has talked about, the online work groups are very different. So the drop-in groups and webinars are free. The work groups are a low cost, live facilitated psychoeducation to work through the group, get support from the facilitator. So Dr. Eddie has multiple of those, but there's other courses like Sex Addiction 101 or Porn Addiction 101, depending on the acting out. And then those, but there's homework, so there's some accountability with those as well. So other input on that one? Okay, so the next one. I was at Seeking Integrity for 3 weeks in January, which was really a catalyst for moving into living real recovery. And my work has continued since then. That's great. The increased awareness has resulted in many things I shared about issues in my sobriety, and I had not been seeing before. She experiences this as me lying and gaslighting this whole time. True, a result of my lack of awareness. Today, I try not to say things to reassure her and just live my program, but I see her pain and want to offer more.
Yeah, this is something. What I would say is you do this with a third party in the room. You need a counselor who will be able to explain to her, okay, yes, there was lying, and yes, there was gaslighting in the past. However, he's also having an awakening, a very positive awakening, where he's seeing things that he thought, oh, this was not a problem. He's now looking at it and say, oh, that was a problem. And he's trying to bring it to your attention. So that is not gaslighting, and that is not him lying. This is just him again, as once the addiction everything starts to clear up. And now all of a sudden it's like, wow, I can see things with great clarity, that they're going to wind up bringing things to your attention that they didn't realize before. So that's where I would go. I would say we need to sit in front of a counselor the way you can explain what you're doing, but it would be a shame that you can't talk to her more about the different insights and self-reflection that you're gaining in your life, because that's what you're supposed to be sharing. And ultimately that should be helping her in her healing process. So that's where I would go. I'd go and sit with one of your counselors and walk through all of that.
Well, and her pain is her pain, and there's no fast track for her. With all due respect, I'm thrilled you're doing really well, but January was just a couple months ago. And so her timeline, if you've been acting out for this entire time, her timeline is she's had a couple of months to see you actually doing things differently. It takes time, it's 12 to 24 months for her of you doing things in a positive direction for her to start going, okay, he's different. Now, I suspect that, you're focusing on, I see her pain, but I suspect that there are also moments where you're feeling like things are different and more connected. So it's both. And this is messy. And there's no, I went to treatment and now I'm magically cured. You understand that you're doing the work. So, again, you have control over your actions and reactions. You living in integrity and showing up, that's what you do. But I love the idea of going and having the conversation of, like, I want to be transparent with you. I want to share, not in a way that's traumatizing to you, but I understand that this can cause you pain, and I want you to have support around that too. So we are out of questions. So again, thank you, Dr. Eddie, and all the questions, great. Resources on the Seeking Integrity site. There is room yet in the Why Men Struggle to Love work group. So if you are a man who might be struggling with those issues, there's room for you to participate starting tomorrow. But there's lots of good information. Join us, continue to join us for webinars and drop-in groups on the Seeking Integrity site. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. I'll see you guys in June.